He is Mark Stewart, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel reporter covering the Wisconsin Badgers. Oofda. The Wisconsin Badgers went to Iowa, and it was bad. 42-10. The Hawkeyes offense, reborn over the last several weeks, really took Wisconsin to the woodshed. This was a tough one. Wisconsin, of course, I don't know if you'd see them as favored going into a game like that, but you and I at least thought it would be a toss-up to some degree. We both picked different, you picked Wisconsin, I picked Iowa. We thought it'd be close. Both of us did. Iowa was not a ranked team. Iowa's a good team, but that was a rough one. So I guess as you've had a few days of distance, I'm just first curious what you're thinking about right now, Mark Stewart. Like, was this game truly as bad as I think everyone thinks it is? Does it speak to the direction of the program? I mean, we'll talk about some big picture stuff coming out of this. But do you have anything that has struck you in the days since this disaster befell the Wisconsin Badger football program?
Well, one, thanks for reminding everyone I picked Wisconsin to win that one.
Oh, yes. Did I? I apologize, Mark. I mean, it was more about me than you. I just want people to know I did pick Iowa. Well, of course, the score was nothing.
I was just kidding. Yeah, I mean, what kind of struck me is like that, maybe, and I hesitate. I hate in a way making these, pronouncements because the season isn't over. But maybe one thing a couple of things we're learning is that Wisconsin so far is pretty much where what we thought they were going to be. I looked at the standings, for instance, and right now they're tied for 7th in the Big Ten, which is where I think in the preseason that's where they were sort of picked to finish. Now they got 3 challenging games left to see where they actually stand, but they're sort of where people thought they were, even though they had this disappointing loss. Now the other thing that kind of struck me is the strength of this team. The strength of this team really is the offensive line, but makes you wonder, okay, well, how strong is the actual offensive line? Like how strong is their strength? Because some weeks, depending on the matchup, they're able to, perform well. I thought they were solid, given all that Penn State brought to the table a couple of weeks ago. I thought that was a, pretty, solid outing, at least to help have the team competitive going into the fourth quarter. Iowa, it was tough to watch. If you love line playing, you love watching the Wisconsin Badgers do their thing in the trenches. This was not the game for you to watch. So I guess that's the one thing that kind of cropped in my head as far as the offensive line goes, is that even though they might be a strength of this team, how strong is that unit overall? Maybe it's not as strong as we thought. Now, granted, Iowa, I mean, they are pretty good up front. So, that was, I don't want to ramble too much, but that was kind of my thought in terms of the offensive line.
Yeah, certainly. I think probably a little better from last year, the offensive line. I do think overall they've taken a step forward, but I think how strong is their strength is a good way to look at it. If you look at other aspects of this team, I think quarterback play is a thing that a lot of people are going to zoom in on. And it is fair to say that this team was dealt a blow when Tyler Van Dyke was lost for the season. Of course, now they're forced to go through this season with ostensibly their backup. But I think back to fall camp, it wasn't abundantly clear, or maybe more spring ball than fall camp, wasn't abundantly clear who the quarterback was going to be. I think we all kind of thought it would be Tyler Van Dyke. But Braedyn Locke was at least competitive in that regard. And Braedyn Locke, I think at times has certainly looked like a capable starter in a Big Ten football program. But the mistakes have compounded, and the shortcomings athletically, or because he gets too many passes tipped because he's not that tall. I mean, I don't like, it feels like it's all added up to the point where it's questionable to me whether they can get better with Braedyn Locke as quarterback. And that is something I know a lot of people are going to emphasize. It feels to me like it's very unsettled what happens for next year and beyond, who the quarterback is going to be, whether Tyler Van Dyke comes back, whether they try to get a step forward out of Braedyn Locke, whether they go outside the program yet again for a 3rd consecutive year. But is there, I mean, where are you at with Braedyn Locke? Is he a guy who can be the quarterback of the future for this program? Or are we seeing that the ceiling is where it is and it's just not going to get better?
The turnovers, I mean, you know, they're killers. I mean, and the turnovers this week weren't. I mean, I don't think that's what determined, the game, but
No, for
still,
sure.
that's, when you have a run of 6 straight weeks where you've had an interception, not all the throws are just bouncing off guys' hands and into the other team's receivers, and into the other team's linebackers or defensive backs. Um, so, yeah, so it's hard to sell yourself when you're committing turnovers every week, especially when this offense really has a small margin, for error. Um, I don't think he's a guy as a sophomore that was going to carry you anyway. I
Mhm.
mean, I think he was a guy that you needed, like he was going to be the key word this year is complementary with Wisconsin football, and I think he's a guy that like if you got the run game going, that he can, you can use the passing game off the run game. I think he's can do a pretty good job of that. But is he a guy that you can flip it and say, okay, hey, the run game isn't going. Hey, we're going to open it up the pass game, and we're going to try to, you know, help the run game by, opening things up, passing wise. I don't. He hasn't shown that at this point. But the funny thing about the Big Ten season, I kind of touched on this a couple weeks ago, is like from week to week things change so much. Like
Mhm.
who knows what you know things are going to look like next week, or what team is going to have a great performance that's going to change how we think about things. So I'm not willing to completely just shut the door and say Braedyn's not a quarterback for the future, or saying he can't lead the offense or carry the team at times. But I mean, definitely at this point, after 9 games, I think we've shown that, or he's shown that, one, the turnovers, too many throws that make you gasp, breathe a sigh of relief if the ball gets dropped, and then two, that this is an offense that he's at his best when that offensive line is getting a good push, and they're running the ball well.
What about this coaching staff? I don't we could very easily start talking about, is there a hot seat for Luke Fickell? Because you said they are exactly kind of where you thought they'd be wins and losses wise, but I think you went into the season with this schedule and you said to yourself, you've got to see improvement. Now, many could debate what that improvement looked like. Is this team better than last year's team? And by whatever metric you want to use, I don't think it's really defensible to say this team is better than last year's team. Now, when you bring in a new coach and a new coaching staff, you're going to have, it's not going to be linear, but it's obviously a disappointment. Last year was a disappointment. And then this year has to be more so if they're not moving somewhat forward. I'm thinking more about Phil Longo and Mike Tressel, the two coordinators. Is this a good fit? Is this something that you think they're going to try to run back as we go forward? Or are they going to be looking for new wrinkles on either the offense or the defense? Because you look at this game, Iowa is a team that the Badgers should theoretically hang with, even if they don't win. That is a team that traditionally has been at their level, and a team that they are competing with kind of for some of the same terrain. Getting blown out like this in almost historic fashion in terms of this rivalry makes it feel like they have lost that footing, in addition to losing the footing by nature of being in a tougher Big Ten. So it feels like they have to do something to try and move forward. Is that the place to do it? Is this staff going to be adjusted as we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know what Fickle's thinking at this point. I mean, I think defensively they've been okay. I mean, they had a nice run there, of the 3 games where they faced teams that weren't really all that great.
One
And
touchdown in 3 games, though. That is good. That is
I
very
mean,
good, no matter the
yeah,
opponent.
yeah, I mean, yeah, regardless of the opponent, and even last week, I mean, not last week, against Penn State, until that pick six,
Mhm.
the defense, they were sort of on the ropes. Is that that was kind of the vibe I was feeling in terms of the game. But Penn State only had one touchdown at that point, and you're talking midway through the third quarter. So, so I think the defense is, even though it has some deficiencies and some challenges up front, has been solid. I mean, the offense and the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, that's always going to be kind of a hot topic. I don't know one I would love to poll fan bases around the country and say, are you happy with your quarterback? Are you happy with your offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Because it seems like everyone,
Unhappy.
is dissatisfied. That's the one job that's hard to please for everyone.
Mm.
I mean, I think these last 3 games are going to be key. Braedyn Locke, can he cut down on these turnovers? I mean, you just can't go into every game, thinking you're going to average an interception, at least one. And then 2, as far as, the offense goes, like, what kind of strides are, will that unit make? What can the offense do when the passing game isn't working? Though I think so. Those are some of the things that are going to have to be considered moving forward. The other thing that we don't really know is some of these players who are coming up the ranks. Mabry Metower, he's here on campus now, but they got Landon Locke, who is Braedyn's younger brother. He hurt his knee this year, so he hasn't played a lot this year. They got another quarterback. I think his name's JR Mock from from the Columbus area. So I guess we'll find out how good those guys are and how key, what kind of relationship Longo has with those people. And then, excuse my phone in the background. I can't do anything about that. And then the other thing is Tyler Van Dyke. I mean, if he comes back, healthy, and these days, presumably the way guys heal from ACL injuries, he would be ready to participate, I assume, sometime in camp. Would he be a guy that thinks he can come back, win the starting job, and have the senior season this year or next year that he was hoping to have, this season? So, I mean, I think in the back of, I haven't spoken to Tyler Van Dyke, but I think, that's sort of your, I don't want to say he's an ace, your ace card that you're holding. But if you don't like what Braedyn Locke is doing, you still got Tyler here, and maybe, you can convince him, hey, that this phone's killing me.
Somebody really wants to talk to you, Mark.
I know. I was gonna say
the coordinators that we're talking about right now. Maybe
it's probably some political poll or something.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think having Tyler Van Dyke on the roster still, and the possibility that he could come back, be healthy next year, and kind of like I said, have that senior season next year that maybe sets him up for the NFL. That might be their best bet if things with Braedyn Locke don't work out.
The Oregon game in 2 weeks. Badgers have a bye, and then they play number 1 Oregon. And unless they lose to Maryland, they will still be number 1. It's big on 2 fronts, tied into what you were just saying, because they're going to be welcoming in another big time quarterback recruit, Carter Smith, one of the top quarterbacks in the nation, who is decommitted from Michigan. And Wisconsin, reported even by our own USA Today network, is heavily after this guy. And so he'll be checking out. He'll be there on an official visit to watch this game against Oregon and to see what the environment is like. I think the Badgers had a really good thing with this Penn State game, at least for the first half. Tons of recruits there. It's a night game. The environment was incredible. And so those guys all got to take that in. And I'm sure that's going to benefit them down the road, although we maybe don't know exactly how much. I suppose that could be the case here too, but I don't know if we can expect the same level of buzz. I will tell you right now, I will not pick the Badgers to get within 4 touchdowns of Oregon when they get into this game. Now that's still a worst case scenario. That's an uncompetitive game for a team that, like you said, stuff changes week to week. The Badgers could be competitive. I don't know, but we saw it. They were competitive against Penn State for most of that game. And if you can find a way to subtract the mistake, they have a legitimate shot to win that game. So, what do you think about the Oregon game? We're a ways away. Is there any chance to get the extra week off? Is there any chance Wisconsin could just pull the upset that shocks everyone? We've seen it in the SEC every year. Vanderbilt beat Alabama this year. Unranked teams can make some noise, but obviously this isn't a team that's playing their best.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that kind of strikes me, you talk about Vanderbilt beating Alabama, is that at least Vandy plays Alabama somewhat regularly. So even though Vandy hasn't, I don't know how the SEC rolls its schedule, but when I saw that upset earlier this year, my first thought was that Vanderbilt for years knows what to expect with Alabama.
New head coach though for Alabama, so a little different.
Yeah, but just in terms of like the caliber of player and just like what it's like just to kind of be on the field with them and things like that. Oregon's new. Like sure it's a Big Ten game, but I don't know when's the last time they played. Could it have been the Rose Bowl in 2012? I don't know. I'm just going off the top of my head there.
Oh no, Rose Bowl much more recently than that. 2020 they played Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So as far as an upset goes, I guess, no spoiler alert that, that won't be my pick coming in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mark.
But again, like I said, this Wisconsin team has a lot of things it needs to clean up, with the offensive line and things of that sort. But, I'm starting to think, this whole Big Ten season is about like kind of like basketball in a way. It's about matchups. Like, okay, some teams match up better with others, and that's why Rutgers can look great against Washington and then look terrible against Wisconsin. And that's why maybe, Wisconsin can Maryland can look terrible against Northwestern and then beat USC. Now, I'm not predicting an upset here, but, maybe Wisconsin, can come back and at least have some level of, competitiveness. I think this is one of those gut check, pride type moments where, hey, it's one thing to get embarrassed on the road. And that was a great environment in Iowa City. It's a whole nother thing to come back home and have it happen on your home field. So, no, I don't think, Wisconsin's going to be, it's going to shock the world in a couple of weeks. But, can they be competitive? Can they put up a fight? Can they get fans excited and maybe build something going into the Nebraska and the Minnesota games? Maybe.
Badgers will need one of those Nebraska or Minnesota games to guarantee bowl eligibility to continue that 20-plus year streak. They may get it anyway. They may, with 5 wins, get in because of their academic standing, if there are spots available. But obviously they need something to guarantee that 500 season. He is Mark Stewart, Journal Sentinel reporter, covering the Wisconsin Badgers. You mentioned basketball. We'll do that soon too. We'll have to talk about the basketball team as they get rolling here this week as well. And we will chat with you again very soon. Bye-bye.
All right.